did not. I didn't.
Why did you go to just a six-man rotation in the second half?
Because that was my decision.
Okay, we'll keep it straight to the point. So North Carolina has now suffered consecutive losses in the round of 64. The noise is getting louder in Chapel Hill as Joe Fortenbaugh and Coach Seth Greenberg joined us. I think Seth is somewhere in an airport, but he's with us nonetheless here on First Take. Should the Hubert Davis era be closing in Chapel Hill? Coach, what do you think?
Absolutely not. Think about this season for this North Carolina team. They were 19-5 with wins over Duke, Kansas, and Kentucky with Caleb Wilson. Then Caleb Wilson goes out. Since he's been out, they've been 5-4. Going into the ACC tournament, they thought they were going to have Caleb Wilson back. But he re-injured his other hand, and he was unable to play. Now, they're a totally different team with Caleb Wilson. There's no doubt about it. Now, there are some things that they got to clean up, like roster construction. He only played 6 guys because he only had 6 guys that he could count on. But look at the wins and the losses with him and without him. Look at the points per game. Look at the opponent's points per game. Look at the field goal percentage. This guy was this whole program this year was built around Caleb Wilson. And on the fly, they had to kind of reinvent themselves. Now, where Hubert Davis has to take some accountability. Number one, the rest of the roster, with his general manager and his coaches, the roster wasn't deep enough. Number two, in that game, giving up that lead the way they gave up that lead, certain things you cannot let happen. Getting the ball in bounds or underneath out of bounds play, you can't get a 5-second call. End of the game, you've got to get a shot up, at least get a shot up. And that's got to be cleaned up. In terms of the end of his era, next year, he's got to win. He's got to win. So what has he got to do? He's got to do a better job recruiting. He's got to recruit better depth. But I don't think it's fair to evaluate this team, a team that beat Duke, Kansas, and Kentucky when they were healthy and playing as well as anyone. You think about that Duke game, it was absolutely amazing. So I think, you know what? Put on the brakes. Let's see what happens next year. He's got another year to recruit.
Coach makes an excellent case for keeping him. I'll make the case for the other side because this is exactly what UNC is going to have to discuss coming off of what we saw last night. Not all losses are created equal. Sienna's loss to Duke, a valiant effort. The UNC loss last night, going down against that opponent, not necessarily a bad thing, but it's the way in which you did it. You're blowing a 19-point lead, and then with the intentional missed free throw late that doesn't touch the rim because the player doesn't know the rule, that's coaching. You've got to be aware of that situation. And at any point during the 19-0 collapse, and you still had overtime, you never got the team settled. That stuff happens. That's okay. It's one game. But it does open up the picture to, all right, what else should we be looking at here? And the further we get away from Roy Williams, the further UNC drifts from serious competition. First year on the job, Hubert Davis is a national runner-up. They're in the title game. Fantastic. The next year, I believe it was them turning down and bid to the NIT. Then it was a Sweet 16 appearance, and now each of the last 2 years, they've been eliminated in the first round of the tournament. The more they drift from Williams, the more the program drifts from serious competition, which is why you've got to ask these serious questions today.
Stephen A.
Completely agree with Joe right there. Coach, put Coach up on the screen. Let me talk to Coach. Let me talk to Coach Seth Greenberg.
You and me, Stephen A. You and me.
Hubert Davis, he's won 20 games over the last 5 years. As Joe just pointed out, national runner-up. Then he missed the tourney. You know, obviously over the last 2 years, he bows out in the first round or whatever. That stuff happens. Caleb Wilson wasn't there. Caleb Wilson was there last night. Chances are they win the game. We all understand that, right? But here's what's inescapable, and I'm sick and tired of people just glossing over this. When you look at North Carolina, you must look at Duke. It's the best basketball rivalry in college basketball. It's the best. It's special, okay? And we see how Carolina raises its game, like when they beat them, you know, in Chapel Hill before they got stomped once they went to Cameron Indoor Stadium, which we all knew was predictable. But the reason why it was predictable was because we assumed that Duke was the superior team, and you just laid an egg against Carolina when you went up against them in Chapel Hill. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that what have we been talking about all year? We've been talking about Cameron Boozer. We've been talking about Duke. We've been talking about Shire and how exceptional of a coach he is as the successor to Mike Krzyzewski. All we've had are questions about Hubert Davis, and it's primarily due to recruiting. See, when you saw Krzyzewski, what happened with Roy Williams is that, you know what? even though Krzyzewski had his players, Roy Williams was in a Sweet 16. Roy Williams was in a Final Four. Roy Williams was bringing you a couple of national championships. He wasn't messing around. You don't get to ignore us, okay? That hasn't been the case with Hubert Davis. So when I look at Hubert Davis, the coach, I'm not questioning his acumen with X's and O's and his ability to coach the game. I'm saying that's not Mike Krzyzewski you're going against 8 miles down the road. But it damn sure feels that way because there is a clear discrepancy between the job that John Shire is doing and the job that Hubert Davis is doing over the last 3 or 4 years. That's the kind of stuff that, you know what, makes you look for another coach in Chapel Hill because you don't want that discrepancy to exist. That's what I'm saying, Coach, we should be talking about. This is not a conversation about Hubert Davis. Does he know basketball? Can he coach the game? Can you recruit against Duke? You understand? Now, we had a cat come up in here, Mingo, a few weeks ago, and he's going to be going to Carolina next year. That's a big deal. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Because if we see that, Coach, we're not having these conversations. Everybody understands anything can happen in an NCAA tournament. We understand it. These are kids. You can find yourself in a precarious situation. You can go down. You can get knocked off in the first or second round. We got that part. But what we can't do is look at Duke and feel like they're a program head and shoulders above Carolina when you're right there 8 miles down the road. If they get one dude, you get another. If you get one dude, they'll probably get another. That's how it's supposed to be. There's not supposed to be a precipitous drop-off, and there has been. That's the problem.
Look, I agree with the recruiting. One thing about Hubert is he's got to better understand the business of college basketball and how it's changed. And he's got to have a staff that reflects that has the contacts and the network.
All right.
You know, they hired a general manager. The business of college basketball is very different than it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. And what they've got to do is they've got to get in the trenches. They've got to find a way and have the contacts and the relationships to get the best players in the country. Here's the other side of that, though. The best players in the country, there's more schools involved in the recruitment because of pay for play. And that's just the way it is. But they've got to develop a network because Carolina's a destination. Duke's a destination. There are certain schools that are destinations in recruiting, and they've got to win some of those recruiting wars. They've got to cultivate the right people, and that's why I call it the business of college basketball. And they've got to get involved with the best players in the country because when you see those banners hanging in the Dean Smith Center, they're the best players in college basketball, starting with Michael Jordan and the rest. So they've got to improve their recruiting if he's going to remain the coach. And I agree with you.
Absolutely.
And I think this year he's got to get it done because the standard is the standard in North Carolina, and they haven't been up to the standard.
Great point.
You can't, Duke, you can't. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, fair or not, at North Carolina, you will be held to a more stringent standard than virtually anywhere else in the country, fair or not. And losing in the first round, despite an injury to a key player, is not good enough. You should be deep enough to withstand that and go on some sort of run. If this is a one-off, fine. But this is 3 years in a row where the Sweet 16 was the high point. 4 years ago, they turned down the NIT, Stephen A.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? It's forgivable when you go out and you recruit your behind off and you got big-time personnel coming to your campus. All right, now it's about, all right, y'all, what y'all going to do? Get it done. You know, again, you cannot have Duke 8 miles up the road being the creme de la creme. They rank #1 in the nation, US 17. That ain't Carolina. That's not what we're accustomed to seeing. That's the point. Because usually, think about it. If you're a kid, right, you come to me to talk to me, right? If you're North Carolina, right, I'm expecting to hear from Duke. You come to me and you Duke talking to me about coming there, I'm expecting to hear from North Carolina. It's a great rivalry. That's one of your selling points. When there's that discrepancy, somebody is not doing their job in that regard. Hubert Davis is a damn good basketball mind. We know he can coach. It's not about that. It's about the fact, are you that dude that can get cats to want to come to your program and match what Duke is delivering on a year in, year out basis? Duke don't just show up in the NCAA tournament. Their buzz is from start to finish throughout the year because of the personnel that they have. Coaches telling you in October, yo, look out for them. They might win it all. That's what Duke is doing. Carolina's like, how do you think they're going to be? Are you sure? We hope they'll do all right. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable.
Hubert Davis is 5-7 against Duke. For a little context here in terms of Roy Williams, he only did not make it out of the round of 64 once during his entire tenure at North Carolina. Coming up, speaking of the Duke Blue Devils, they struggled